What is up? Welcome to the NBA Rundown, brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. Mouse started working, so we got a late start today, but that doesn't mean we aren't ready to bring you winners. I'm here with the great Travis Mangone and, of course, my guy Tyler, always giving out the winners. Let's start with you, Travis. What have you thought of the NBA season so far?
Yeah, NBA's been fun. People, I think, like, I had my friend text me yesterday. He's like, I can't believe your Celtics are losing to the Bulls. Like, it's October, right? Like, the beauty of the NBA season is, like, we love these, like, young players, watching them grow and develop, because we typically watch them develop in college. Like, we don't get to see that. So now they're watching the NBA. We got the Tankathon. We got some really good basketball teams that are still trying as well. So it's overall a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know if Tyler's trying to load in or what's happening on the right, but excited to break it down with you. And hopefully, Tyler, if he's able to get in here.
Yeah, let me wait. I thought Tyler was here. Maybe not. He's been having internet issues. I can't get my mouse to work. At least I'm old. Like, I don't know what his excuse is. When you're young, you should be able to figure this stuff out. But I'm excited to talk about today's slate. We did an excellent job breaking it down last week. So let's hope you can bring those winners again. Let's start with the Detroit Pistons. Let me pull this up real quick and see what the line is currently. All right. Not the best start to the show, but we're still going to give the winners. Detroit Pistons plus 5.5 in Washington, taking on the Wizards. Total is currently 220 plus 185 for the money line. And Travis, you talked about watching these young players develop, right? And I think that I got bit by the bug, and I kind of got excited about the offensive capabilities of this new look Detroit Pistons team. Of course, they add Jaden Ivey in the offseason. They add Bojan Bogdanovic, great three-point shooter. But the thing is, this team can't defend. And so I thought they'd be ready to compete right now. But I think scoring at the NBA level, when you're a natural player, is a little easier than being able to defend these elite guys. So Detroit Pistons haven't lived up to expectations for me so far. They're going to have to figure it out on the defensive end if they can get things going. So I ran the numbers this morning before the game. My numbers, like the Washington Wizards here at home, which actually isn't a surprise, right? Because the Wizards are a team that's full of players that are pretty much close to their ceiling, right? I mean, like, Kuzma's not really going to get that much better at this point. Beal's probably on the way down, right? This is the best we're going to get out of Porzingis. All these Detroit players are getting better. I like Washington here. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think overall, the thing I want to talk about the Pistons here, spread, that I think is very, very, very important. They're a DFS team that we need to target, right? And the reason why we need to target them, spread, is like, one thing I think we ran into issues with some of these teams like the Pistons last year is, yeah, they couldn't defend, but they couldn't also put up points either, right? Like, they struggled to do that. In these spots, they're going to be able to put up points. Like, I think in addition, like a Bojan Bogdanovic helps this team because – people sometimes say, like, oh, they need a veteran presence in the locker room, right? Like, we overvalue that. But, like, having a veteran player like a Bogdanovic to help out and be able to play the 4 or the 3, like, different roles. He could even play the 2 if you wanted him to. Not super ideal, but you could. And you can pair these guys up, right? Like with Cade and Ivy, and they can help to, like, space the floor. Like, sometimes if you go, like, and I know this is, like, such a dumb analogy, spread, but you go to the local Y, right? And you're playing hoops, and you're like, dude, I can't drive the hoop, right? Because this dude is just always, like, down low. Like, there's no spacing, right? That's one of the problems sometimes. Like, Bogdanovic is going to provide that spacing. He's a veteran. He knows when to get out of the way. He knows when to take over. Little things like that. And takeover is probably a little bit of an egregious word for Bogdanovic, but I love that addition for that team. I think it's very, very good for them. If you look at the Washington Wizards, they're a team where we can play some options here, I think, in DFS. If you look, Kyle Kuzma at 6'9", if there's no defense going to be played, Kyle Kuzma can certainly, once he gets hot, we remember him saying it, right? He took that one shot, and he said, if Jesus was in front of me, I would have took the shot. So, like, the dude don't care. He's going to chuck. Bradley Beal at 8'4", it looks like an appealing tag, but Bradley Beal hasn't really had the best game so far. And if you look at his shooting, he shot pretty decent. 9 for 17, 9 for 14, 11 for 16. Those are decent shooting performances. So I don't know. I'm not dying to get the Bradley Beal. He could be a contrarian spend up, which those are sometimes really interesting to go to, but I don't know if that'll be the one that I look at here. I do think I like some of these Detroit guys because I'm not scared of that Washington defense. Like Cade Cunningham at 7'9". I know people have been like kind of harping on Cade, like, oh, I can't play him. And even myself, I kind of had one day where I was a little frustrated with him, but He does drive to the hoop a lot. You want to play him in spots where you're not like afraid of the rim protection. And I don't know, am I afraid of Porzingis' rim protection? I mean, it's fine, but I'm not that scared of it. And I just think he's an interesting option if you're going to tell me that the ownership is low, right? I think that's key. Jaden Ivey at 6'8", I actually kind of like him a little bit more than Cade, playing him in at the shooting guard position. I think he could be really intriguing to look at. Another guy to talk about just DFS-wise, and he's been really good. I'd love to know his FanDuel price, because typically his FanDuel price is great, but this is Isaiah Stewart I'm talking about. 5.3K. The guy's shooting three-pointers now. Like, I mean, we have this every year, right? There's like a couple guys that pop up, and you're like, what's happening here? Why is he shooting threes? Like, he just learned how to shoot. And Isaiah Stewart, 6K on FanDuel. Don't love that price. I think the 5.3 is more intriguing for him. Games have been pretty decent. I mean, he's firing, right? 1 for 4, 1 for 6, 1 for 4. He did hit that one that was kind of like a game winner, it kind of closed that game out. But I think Isaiah Stewart at 5'3", one of these games, he's going to shoot like 3 or 4 from 3. And adding all those other stats, it's going to be a ceiling performance. So I don't want to sleep on him completely. I do think there's some interesting options on both sides. This is not the marquee game of the DFS slate. The spots that you really want to key in on are the Pelicans. They're going to be very important because they have a lot of guys missing. So a lot of these Detroit and Washington guys, they're not guys you're jamming onto your team spread. They're guys that are maybe last fillers, right? Guys just to put in like, hey, this might be a contrarian low-owned guy that could get the job done for you and carry you to the top of the leaderboards. Pelicans are going to be that injury situation. We have Clippers and OKC. Tons of injuries there to talk about as well. So, again, there's merit to not even playing this game if we don't have some of the starting lineups. You're probably not going to have that OKC starting lineup anyways because I forget how to say the guy's last name, but Mark D, the OKC head coach, he thinks there's a huge competitive advantage for the OKC Thunder holding their starting lineups out. So might be a reason to just completely fade this first game. There could be some merit in doing that. So just wanted to call that out. And one more guy I did want to mention, actually. It is the old Bogdanovich revenge game, right? I think he played for the Wizards. He also played for the Pacers last game. He had 30 DK points. I mean, at 5.5K, 30 DK points ain't bad. And he didn't shoot as well. And Bogdanovich, if he does get hot, he's going to have games where he shoots like 8 for 10 for 3 out of nowhere. And this could be one of those games where the ceiling performance could go down. So there are some interesting filler pieces from this game that if you want to just take a gamble and just plug in a Bogdanovich, and then he hits like a 35, 40 DK point game at like single digit ownership, then you could mix and match some of these other guys in these next couple games that could really make a really interesting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're talking about here, and let's talk a little game theory. If you're playing this game, it sounds like you're just doing it to be contrarian, right? And to get different. So maybe if I go chalky in some other games, this might be a game that I would grab a piece to get different. Am I hearing you right when you're talking about this game? Because you don't sound too excited about loading your lineup up with this first one. Is this pretty much just to be contrarian here? Or is that too simplistic of what you just said?
Well, here's the key spread. I think you can put like a piece or two in this game. I mean, one thing to note, and I like to talk about these on slates, and I haven't ran too much yet, but like yesterday we have that, that Rockets Jazz game. That Rockets Jazz game was I talked about on the Up to Lock show. Most people are playing 4 or 5 guys from these games, right? Like they're just loading the boat on it. And, I ended up loading it up on it too. I felt like I made a couple mistakes yesterday that I could have maybe done better. The teams that I played that I felt like I made mistakes still cashed, but I still think there were mistakes that were made that I could have done a better job with. And like when you run projections and look at stuff, like obviously all these guys in the next 3 games, the Pelicans, the Clippers, and OKC, they're all going to pop up on teams. You only have 8 roster spots. Would I be surprised if you're playing 3 OKC, 3 Clippers, and 2 Pelicans? That wouldn't shock me, spread. But which guy is going to be under 20% of those guys? I don't know if there's going to be many. And I need difference makers to get me to the top of the leaderboard too. Not saying you need to play all 5% guys. Sometimes people do that. Sometimes like one thing that Kay Fallick does and he's great at is he says, I don't like this chalk. I'm fading this game. And what he does is then he loads up on a lower owned spot. And then when it kind of busts, he doesn't need every play to bust, but he can have, if a lot of the plays bust in it, or even 50% of them, his could just get carried to the top of the leaderboard and crush. But my style that I think I'm better at is, hey, how can I mix and match these right pieces of chalk, right? How can I make sure I get them in there and then also have a contrarian guy to get in? And one thing that you'll have to gamble with if you decide to do it, I think a lot of people are going to see this Detroit and Washington game, and what are they going to say, spread? They're going to say, okay, I don't want to play anyone from this game. And then when you do that, you're just eliminating a game that could have a difference maker that gets you to the top. And then you might say, oh, I'll go to Golden State or Phoenix for one of those mix-in options. So is everyone else. They're looking at DeAndre Ayton at that price tag. They're looking at Chris Paul. I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to completely ignore this game. If I'm seeing that these guys are popping up, I'm going to consider them just because I know what their upside could be. At 6'8", could Jaden Ivey get 40 and be like 3% and be the reason I win the slate? Yeah. Pair that up with a bunch of chalk options and can get the job done. But don't load up on this game. I don't think it's one just to fire at and play because there is good chalk coming up. This Pelicans game is going to have good chalk. The Clippers side, we'll talk about it. I think there are some good options, but they're deeper than people think. And then OKC, you don't know what's going to happen. And they can go deeper than you think too. But some of those guys will get there because the price tags are ridiculous.
All right. Let me give you a couple trends here, and then we're going to move on to that New Orleans game because, from a betting perspective, when the people are out, I can adjust easily. But I can't wait to see how you're going to approach the Pelicans. Let's talk about the Pistons real quick, though. Total's gone over in Detroit's last 7 games. Washington has won 14 straight games at home against Detroit. So if you like those money line parlays, I like adding them with tennis players and stuff, but it seems like Washington's pretty safe here. And also Washington's gone over in 12 of Washington's last 16 home games here. One thing that kind of counteracts the 6 of the last 8, Washington, Detroit have gone under, but I still like the over. The numbers like over, the trends like the over. This is chalk for me. I am going to play the Wizards and the over here. Let's talk about this because we have a midseason injury report already from the New Orleans Pelicans. We have no Herb Jones, great defender, no Brandon Ingram, number 1 scorer, and no Zion Williamson already. Mangone, it's only been a week, and we're missing a ton of players. From the betting perspective, of course, makes it a little tougher for me, but I think this gives you great opportunities when you're building these lineups. The only question is how chalky are these plays going to be? And that's why I mentioned the contrarian play earlier, maybe from the Detroit game, because if you just load up on the chalk, I was talking to my buddy yesterday. It was like awesome to have Josh Jacobs on Sunday, but everyone had Josh Jacobs. So it's like we're all moving up the leaderboard together because it was just such obvious chalk.
It's great. It's great to have them spread, but you do have to make sure you're looking at the full lineup ownership, right? I think that's very key when it comes down to it. If you just plug in all these 20% plays, who's getting into the top of the leaderboard? No one is. And you want to play these good plays. You're not trying to fade them. Trust me, when you look at my content, I'm going to have them. They're going to be in the cores that I look at. They're going to be guys that I look for, but I do want to mix and match some interesting options in there. I actually don't want to ask you one betting thing before we kind of move on to this Pelican side spread from the game before, and I should have asked it. What did you think of the over in that game? Just because I just think the Pistons play zero defense. And I think their offense is good enough where I think overs in Piston games are going to be something to target for probably the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, for pretty much any sport now, maybe baseball, you can blind bet a model. But for basketball and the NFL, we both know that you use the model to key yourself on the targets you spot, but you have to use your eyes. And it's almost what I said to start the game. I was so excited about this Pistons team. So many different offensive options here, right? That Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham backcourt just looks awesome. But these guys are only 20 years old, and now they're asked to defend grown men like Kuzma, right? He's not even intimidated by Jesus covering him. What do you think he's going to do when Jaden Ivey's in front of him, right? So I love the over. I mean, the Wizards have been an over cash cow for the whole time Bradley Beal's been there, going back to when John Wall was there. And this Pistons team, they weren't so good on the overs last season, but I think as they're continuing, and let's be honest, I don't think anyone in Detroit would be disappointed if they were a lottery team again this year, right? They're not burdened by high expectations. They can go ahead and develop. They can let Jaden Ivey go out there, score 20, give up 25. And I think they'll still be fine getting these guys some experience. So I love the over here. That's why I'm super chalky on that Washington game. And I know it's square, but the numbers say it, and what I've seen watching these games on NBA League Pass confirms it.
Yeah, I mean, don't ignore it, right? Even a Kuzma. Kuzma could go for 50 DK points against the Pistons, right? And just virtually not have much ownership. He'd be 10% or something. But I do want to talk about these good plays. I mean, how do you not play CJ McCollum 8K in this spot here? I mean, this is a really, really good spot for CJ. It's hard to argue with him. So obviously I'm going to be looking at some CJ McCollum today. You got a question though. Hey, are you going to play CJ, or maybe you're going to go grab a Luka, or how are you going to spend your salary, right? That's super important. You are missing, You're missing Herb Jones. You're missing Ingram, Zion. And with missing those guys, I assume CJ McCollum's going to be in play. I'm assuming one of these guards could pop in, right? Either a Graham or an Alvarado could go into the starting lineup. So they're going to be interesting at the 4K price tag. Trey Murphy, 4.8K. Think he's going to be someone that could end up starting. I don't think it'll be Najee Marshall. Najee Marshall is 3-2. So you could make the argument. Let's say Trey Murphy starts and he's projected to get, 26 to 30 minutes. Well, Najee Marshall still could back up. And if he does back it up, well, then he's going to get like 18 to 22 minutes. And at 3-2, is that $1,600 worth it to get you maybe an upgrade in a spot? Certainly could be. Larry Nance is a guy that, man, he has been really, really good when he gets the opportunity. 5K, he's a good fantasy producer. I like this chance for Larry Nance. I think it's pretty interesting. Valanciunas is 7-8. I don't mind him. I guess the problem with center that you're going to run into a little bit on this slate is I think he's fine, but I think DeAndre Ayton at 6'7" is kind of interesting already. When it comes to OKC, what center values are going to open up? Are you going to want to go to a Baisley at 4K and plug him at the center spot? Are you going to want to maybe go to a Robinson Earl? I mean, Robinson Earl can always get the job done when those guys are sitting. He definitely can produce fantasy points. And just center, you only can play it at 2 spots. So that's something to think about a little bit with Valanciunas and why CJ McCollum, I think, is just overall a better play than him. So wanted to call that out. We should talk about the other side. Luka, because we have a lot of value today, Luka could just be hey, I'm going to grab raw points, right? I have a bunch of value plays that are in the starting lineup. Let's say Najee Marshall's in there at 3-2. There could be guys that just even at 4-8, a Murphy, where just grabbing the raw point best play on the slate works. Even if he doesn't put up a 70 piece, he can put up 58, and that's enough, even at 11-1, because he's just the raw points play. That's Luka for me today. So Luka, obviously. And let me just check CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum is only point guard eligible, so that's worth mentioning. He does not have that shooting guard tag. But I think overall Luka's going to be a great play. I did want to talk about Christian Wood. Spread, I know you love when I say this, a little Christian Wood revenge game, huh? I mean, Christian Wood, he was with the Pelicans and they kind of just said, peace out to him, right? Or was it the Pistons he was with first? I think he was with the Pelicans first, played great, and then he ended up going to Pistons, right? Is that how it went, Spread? And then from after that, he then went over to...
That's good knowledge. I don't remember him on the Pelicans.
He was, Spread. He was
That's
with the Pelicans.
Good knowledge.
He gets the call up, right? Smashes in DFS. You know what they say? We don't really want you. And then he goes to the Pistons, continues to look great, goes to the Rockets, looks great. And now he's with the Mavs and absolutely crushing it. And he's coming off that bench. And coming off the bench, who's he going to play against, Spread? I mean, is he going to play against former teammates where the revenge is really feeling it, right? Former teammate, maybe Jackson Hayes. I don't know if he was there. I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Maybe he's going up against Hernan Gomez out of nowhere, right? It could be going up against him. And they used to be former teammates, I believe. So the revenge could really be there. So I do think Christian Wood's upside for the price is interesting because I think he's just imagine if he gets more minutes, Spread. I know he's playing great, but what if he got those minutes? That would be humongous for him, and he could have a monster game. So I like him there. I think he's going to be interesting for me in tournaments. I'm going to consider it as one of those run backs with some Pelicans. Overall, great game. We need to see starting lineup, so that's going to be super important here. And that's information we'll get an hour and a half before lock, probably. Maybe we'll get that an hour and a half before lock. We'll get that 30 minutes before. So that'll be 7 o'clock. We might get some information at 6 p.m. Eastern when the coach talks. So that's going to be really important to see if they kind of give some information that can help guide us in the direction. And I'll be on the 4:45 show today, breaking some of that down with the people.
All right. Can't wait to hear you on that show, Travis, because, as this news comes in, and changes the slate. We get the starters. We get a better idea. No one's better than the Run Pure team at just getting that news in and getting it out. So if you're not a member, I don't know what you're doing. Head on over to runpuresports.com.
Yeah, one more thing to mention, Spread.
Let's hear it.
Spread, I didn't mention the Tim Hardaway Jr. news. He is doubtful. So Spencer Dinwiddie could be interesting too, right? Like some of those other guys, that usage is going to be there. So sorry to cut you off, but I did want to call it out before we moved on.
But so how interesting is that though? Because how much has Hardaway really played? If we're looking at our Dinwiddie numbers and we're using priors from last year, I would say the loss of Brunson affects more than Hardaway. I barely remember seeing Hardaway on the floor.
Yeah, I agree that the Brunson thing is worse, but maybe it could help. Could it help Dorian Finney-Smith? I don't know. The other problem too is maybe we're thinking too much about it because we already have really good values that I don't know, we want to definitely sit on these Pelicans values. We want to sit on these like OKC ones and like the Clippers ones. And then I think we want to find like a contrarian piece here and there. Like that Dallas value is probably one of like the last pieces of values to consider. And I just don't think it's one you want to go to. So you might be right, Spread. It might not be one that we're as interested in, but it should be called out that could change some things.
Yeah, I just don't know how much it affects our priors. So here, first of all, we'll do one more DFS. I'll throw out a betting trend, but we always have this happen, right? When we get this news that it's pretty much, it seems to me, it's like after the pricing came out, how many Pelicans is too many? Do I cap it at 3? Do I cap it at 4? What's going to be your rule when you're making your lineups in SaberSim?
Yeah, my go-to is to see what's happening. So like, if you look at like the top like 10 teams, like how many are on it? If you're going to tell me there's 4 Pelicans on most teams, well, Spread, I like 3. You know what I mean? Like I just like that little number below.
Right? How are you finding that out?
I just run it. I run like the cash stuff. I just go through.
So you're running it, and if it keeps popping with 4 Pelicans, and you change the rules.
Yeah, I look at like team 1, team 2, team 3. I look at like the top, like, 20, maybe 100 teams, however many you want to look at. And I'm like, oh, like most teams have 4 Pelicans. You know what's going to be a sharp team? Let me just play 3.
Okay.
Like, I mean,
and that's a great game theory that I think you really excel at. That's why I'm always peppering you.
Yeah, I just think like that's the most simplistic thing that I like to do. And it's not always going to be right. But imagine you did it yesterday, Spread. Let's say you did it yesterday. Okay. You decided instead of playing what's it called? Instead of playing like 3 Jazz, you're going to play 2 Jazz, right? Well, maybe you got Vanderbilt and Olynyk and you didn't get Lauri Markkanen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, yeah, sometimes you're going to have teams that like have like the Lauri Markkanen. And the other thing you have to watch when you do that is like, you're going to see someone like a Lauri Markkanen. You're probably going to see him because I ran through I probably went, and these are things that people probably don't do enough. And even myself, I've kind of kicked myself for not doing as much. I spent like over an hour, like breaking down what I did last night. Was it right? Was it wrong? And I felt like I made some mistakes and I really wanted to look at it. And I noticed when I went through and like ran kind of some of those things that I look at, I was like, okay, like Lauri Markkanen's popping out a lot. Well, how do I not get him in there as much? And I set some rules to make it where I'm getting other Jazz that pop in there to see what different kind of teams I could have gotten. So, yeah, I haven't ran that much yet today, and it's like too early to run this stuff is one of the problems. So, but those are things that I will look at. I want to see. Let's say that the Pelicans are on 4 of my 8 spots, right? Well, let's say then Luka pops in there as a spot because he's just a raw points guy. Well, now I only have 3 more spots for the Clippers and OKC. And those spots could be really good spots. So that could just be a better pivot. Or on the flip side, maybe the OKC Clippers side is a little better. Let me pivot over to the Pelicans a little bit more. That's just things that I'm going to look at to try and make some sharp and contrarian teams that are still good. I don't want to fade Josh Jacobs, I don't want to fade the really good play, but I need to find a guy that can also get me the top leaderboards or some type of slight differences. And you know what's great, Spread, too? What is great is when Lauri Markkanen at 55% duds, right? When he's 6.3K and he only drops 20 DK points, those teams aren't really winning that much unless you have a guy like Desmond Bane who drops 60 DK points and carries to the top leaderboard. Sure, you may have had Lauri Markkanen on your winning lineup last night and you're in the chat saying, well, I played Lauri Markkanen, but you know what you had? You had Desmond Bane who dropped 60 and you just need Desmond Bane on those slates like yesterday.
Let's see if we've got Tyler in here. Tyler, we've been running pure as it comes to picking winners, but we're not running pure when it comes to technology. My mouse just dies.
No chance. I more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, Tyler's connection is struggling. I'm not gonna.
All right. Well, let's see. I'll try and bring him back in if it comes. But yeah, he actually even went to Xfinity yesterday because we had some of these issues yesterday. So that's disappointing because of course we want to get his insight. Unfortunately, it seems if you're going to want to see where Tyler's going when it comes to props, building these winning same game parlays, you're going to have to be a member of runpuresports.com. NBA bets playbook. I've already done the projections, Mangone. I'm throwing in some notes, and then Tyler's going to add the player props and the performance doubles. We'd love to have him on the show with you today. We're not doing this on purpose, to try and get you to go to the site. He really is having some bad internet, but that's the way it goes. So if you're going to want those winners, make sure you're a member of runpuresports.com. Anything more on the Pelicans before we move on?
Yeah, nothing too much else to say. I mean, they're great plays. So like you want to get exposure to them, just got to figure out which ones are the right ones based on some starting lineup stuff. If I had to rank them, CJ McCollum is like feels like a priority today, I would say. The role is just absolutely insane. He's getting to do a lot. And then I want to see from there. And you know who could be a guy too? Like sometimes like we like to find like little contrarian ways to go. Devontae Graham, if he starts, you know, it could be a better play. Jose Alvarado, like just as like a slight pivot. And everyone might say, well, Devontae Graham's starting. Let me get him in there. Alvarado could be an interesting one. I like to see what the starting lineups are and then kind of make some decisions from there. But we also have some great guards too that are going to be coming up in this next game that we need to talk about.
All right, let's move on then. Interesting things I found doing my research for this game is the Los Angeles Clippers minus 9.5 in Oklahoma City. They are our ATS darlings, right? They are the Detroit Lions of the NBA. They don't win. They cover a ton. They actually skew the numbers as far as teams that cover without winning outright, because you take them out. And a lot of these teams that are covering as dogs are actually winning outright. The Thunder are not doing that. But it's an interesting situation here. Looking this up, Mangone, can you believe this? The Clippers are 1-8, straight up, not against the spread. They're 1-8 in their last 9 games in Oklahoma City. That absolutely shocked me. I was thinking, you know, I don't know if I want to lay 9.5. I'm going to wait for Tyler's player performance double. I don't even know if I want to do the player performance double. What do you take away from that stat? What do you take away from that trend? And how are you approaching this game?
Yeah, I don't care that much about it. I'll say, but I get it. I was actually listening to, I like, Mike Gallagher. I love his NBA stuff. I just love, he just has good information that I always have like from like even 5 years ago when he was at Roto World. I know he's at ETR now, but he does some Twitter space stuff, which I just love consuming NBA content. So I was listening last night and someone asked this like same question spread. They're like, is it because they have all those draft picks, right? You know, they were asking, is it because they got these picks? And I don't think it's a big deal. When I heard it, I was like, it's reading too much into things, you know? I think the one thing is, I mean, the Clippers, they were been banged up for a while, right? Spread. I mean, they haven't had Kawhi Leonard. You know, Paul George has been out, and it's a great spot to rest those guys too, right? OKC, you see them coming to town, you're like, let's rest Paul George. It seems like a good idea. So not too worried about that. I do think this Clipper side, it's tougher, I think, than people realize. I kind of want to break this down first because I think there's some good opportunity here, but I think their team is a little more loaded than people realize. So let's count the bodies that'll probably play tonight, spread. Kawhi Leonard, Zubac, Jackson, John Wall, Powell, Kennard, Covington. You got Terrence Mann, not Trey, right? Terrence Mann, Batum, and then you got, I guess Moses Brown could get in there, but maybe not. I mean, he could. It's a little Moses Brown revenge game. So there you go. We're diving deep in the revenge narratives today, spread. But that's 9 actual real basketball players, right? Not absolute just clown players where I just don't know if these Clippers values are as great as people might think. I think some of them are pretty good. Norman Powell at 4'8" seems like one of the stronger ones. Reggie Jackson, it is a Reggie Jackson revenge game too. We got all the revenge narratives coming out here tonight, spread. 5'7", but they could obviously be a little more careful with his minutes. They'd be careful with Kawhi's minutes too. Obviously, they could just be like, hey, Kawhi, go out there. Maybe you play only 24 to 28 minutes, not your normal run. But these are things I am going to watch for today. I'm going to think about, yes, these Clippers values are good, but do I want to onslaught Clippers? Do I want to try and hit the parlay of getting John Wall, Norman Powell, and Reggie Jackson, right? Yeah, on an island, all those plays one of them each could get there, but I want to think about how I roster my Clippers. I think that's very, very important today. Best one for me, though, is Norman Powell. Second best one, I think, is John Wall, just because his usage has been nuts. And even in 20 to 26 minutes, I think John Wall could get there at his price. The problem is he is a guard and there is some opportunity cost, especially when you got guards like CJ McCollum who could smash and Luka Doncic who could end up being just a raw points guy that you want to get into your lineup. So those are things I'm thinking about with the Clippers side of the ball. Would you agree, spread? These Clippers value, they're not as thin as people think. That's at least my personal opinion on it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue Clippers are the deepest team in the NBA, and we love that from a betting perspective because, let's say I bet it last night or right at the opener and I get some news, it doesn't hurt me as much, right? Because this team's able to absorb it. From a DFS perspective, I think it makes it tough, right? We talked about teams like this last year that were just loaded everywhere, and we don't know exactly where to go because we don't know how the usage is going to be, which is why, of course, I love listening to you guys and breaking this stuff down. I'll tell you what, I mean, OKC's just been money against the spread for the last 2 years. If I play this, it's OKC or pass. Would I be crazy to just grab that 9.5 now? What do you think? You're still on mute.
I know. I was typing
got
something out. My bad. You know me.
It's
I'm
all good.
multitasking.
Yeah, you're great at it.
Yeah, sometimes I get caught. You know what I mean? So, the 9.5. The 9.5. Do I want to grab that? I don't hate it. Mainly because I just wish they had Gideon, man. Like Gideon's like that. Because I mean, can we at least talk about how OKC is going to handle a lot of the ball handling duties tonight? I think it's a good conversation to have. I think it's going to be important for DFS because on the flip side, I talked about how deep is OKC, or how the Clippers are deep, but yes, the OKC is not deep spread, but how deep are they willing to go? I think that's more the question to ask. Let's pull up Popcorn Machine and break that down real quick. Actually, I think that's a good thing to do here because I think the two ball handlers are Man. I think they're Man and Dort, and I love this spot for Dort. Specifically, want to put Dort in he is small forward. He's not guard eligible, so that is very, very encouraging. So that's good to see. I'll definitely be looking at Lou Dort. I think Man is a really good option at 5.5. Yes, they're not like the dirt cheap price tags, but the reason why, and I looked at this a little bit last night, I wanted to think of like Aaron Wiggins. He's only 3-1. Could he be more appealing with gaining more ball handling duties? Like besides Dort and Man, who's the next guy to gain the ball handling duties? Is it a Kenrich Williams? Possibly. Is it a Baisley? I know Poku hasn't looked good, so I do worry that like Poku might not be as much of a thing as people might think today. Could even be JRE just like owning on the boards and stuff. I don't know, Spread. Who's the guy that you think it is? Because my original thought was it could be Wiggins. What about you? Spread?
Now I'm doing the mute issues too. So
see,
Travis, I learned from you in multiple ways. I think you're asking a really good question here, and we just need a little more time to go ahead and let this play out. I mean, isn't this so Thunder, though? It's already week 1, and I'm looking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, the top 2 players on the team are out. And I wonder how much that Chet Holmgren injury had something to do with it. So my guess is we're going to get a majority of that usage there.
I feel good it's Wiggins, Spread. I really do.
Really? I was thinking Trey Mann.
Well, so I agree. So Man, I think you're going to have Dort and Man, right? Like both those guys are going to gain the usage, but there's always like a third, right? Like there's always a third guy that could be the one that kind of gains more opportunity. But if you look at Popcorn Machine, and these are things you can always just look at the game flows that I think is super important. Josh Giddey, what happened to him? He was he got hurt. When did he get hurt in this game? He got hurt late. So he got hurt at the 5:20 mark. Who came in for him? I read it wrong. Actually, it was Trey Mann who came in for him. Aaron Wiggins was already in at the 6:12 mark, which is kind of interesting that he was already in the game. I do think we know it's going to be Lou Dort is like, I think going to be one of them. Trey Mann is probably going to be the next one because I think he's going to start in general for him. But I think Aaron Wiggins is a sneaky one. I mean, keep in mind, Spread. Trey Mann is 5'5". Lou Dort is 6K. Wiggins is 3-1. I mean, 3-1 is a drastic difference from 5'5" and 6K. I mean, if you're 5'5" and you get 20 DK points, that's not cutting it. You know what I mean? Like, and even at like 28 DK points, it's nice, but there's other plays that could get the job done. That 3-1 price tag, and Big T talks about this a lot. I love to talk about this too. There's a big difference between 3-1 and 4K. I mean, we talked about on the college football show. I was talking about this receiver, Cam Brown. I was like, he's 3K. He's like, no, he's not. He's 3.9. And that $900 matters. That's a big gap. It's 2.4K from Wiggins to Trey Mann. And the positions are a little bit different. I believe Wiggins has the forward eligibility. So that's important. And you can even make the argument, maybe it's playing Trey Mann at 5'5", then maybe it's fading Dort at 6K for Wiggins at 3-1. These are just slight ways to make some different plays. And I just think it's an important thing to think about. Like, so I like all those three guys. I like Dort. I like Wiggins. I like Mann. I think trying to figure out which one's the best one is going to be a big decision point on this slate. And I think one of them will bust. Which one will it be? That's the big question. And then even Robinson Earl, I like him, but dude, he's 5'3". Like, that's not as appealing as I was hoping I could get of a price tag. So, and like another guy that could get some, I mean, he didn't play much last game, which is surprising, but what if Darius Baisley's starting? Well, if Darius Baisley's starting, he's 4K. He's going to be really interesting for sure then in this spot, especially because he could be the 5 in small ball lineups if the Clippers want to play more small ball, which I wouldn't be shocked if they wanted to do that at times. So I don't know. Starting lineups are going to be very important to figure this out, but there's a lot of different moving pieces on the OKC side. And then that Clipper side, like I said, there's some interesting options, but I don't think they're like just jam into your lineup plays. I think the best one is Norman Powell.
Overall, what are your thoughts for the Clippers this season? First of all, I love what you're saying about Wiggins, because we talked earlier about spending up in that game. If I want to get Luka and CJ in there, I'm going to have to play a 3K guy, right?
Yeah. I haven't looked at projections that much yet. Like, I don't know if he's going to be the guy that like pops and is an extreme value at his 50%. So it's 1 o'clock on the East Coast going to 2 o'clock. Like, it's just too early to kind of look at those things. So, but those are things that I'm noticing. And typically when I notice it though, like when I notice things that like are feel like could be really interesting and optimal, they kind of end up being interesting and optimal. So that's one thing to kind of note there. So yeah, I think he's going to be good. And overall, the Clippers, like you're talking about, yeah, their overall outlook, they're going to be a really good and deep basketball team. You're just going to have to worry about those minutes though. It's going to be very annoying. And from a betting perspective, it's going to be very annoying too, Spread. Like Luke Kennard at randomly closing instead of Marcus Morris the other day. I mean, that was kind of weird, but like, hey, it helped our boy Tambo get to the finish line and win that 100K. But it didn't make a lot of sense that he was not closing the game out. Like, it made sense for Morris to close and play longer in the fourth quarter.
Why did you think that was weird? I mean, Kennard's one of the best shooters in the NBA.
I mean, it's Luke Kennard. I mean, are we sure? I mean,
he shoots over 40% from 3. I mean, isn't that like what the new NBA is all about?
It's still Luke Kennard. Like, more like, yeah, it's a playoff game, Spread. Like, is Marcus Morris in there or is it Luke Kennard? I think it's Marcus Morris.
It depends. If you're down by 5 to 8, you're throwing Kennard in there.
Well, they were winning. They weren't down. They were winning.
Okay.
And he shot.
Then you have a more fair point. You have a more fair point.
He was playing well at the time, so I understand why you ride him out. But that is
the other thing is it Morris kind of banged up?
I mean, I guess
get them mixed up. I know. Was it Markieff that missed? I'm sorry. I apologize for getting this two mixed up.
I thought, no, it's Marcus on that team. It's Marcus Morris.
I know, and I'm thinking I read that Markieff was the one that was banged up.
Well, I mean, he's out anyway, so who knows? But it could be. Okay. The point I'm getting at with this is like when you watch that happen the other night, you were like, man, none of these Clippers are safe, right? Like if Luke Kennard's in there and making his shots, he's going to be in there. If Nick Batum is 4 for 5 from 3, do you know who's closing the game? Nick Batum is. Like, it's just there are things that you need to like think about. And like maybe there's a lot of value in like playing these like late slates sometimes on these two gamers and being like, who are the Clippers that everyone's playing? Oh, let's say Marcus Morris is 60% owned. Let me play Luke Kennard instead at like 10%. Like those are things you could definitely take advantage of over the season DFS wise.
Yeah, and looking at the chat here, thank you to Josh Gillum. He says they're both out. So, that's why I got my wires crossed there. Did want to say what's up to everybody in the chat. We got Antoine Murphy here, Daryl Snyder, my guy, Mark Lewis. What's up? Quincy, Sean B, DJ, Robert, Tyler's in the chat too. And of course, the rest of you guys, please. Oh, Uncle T's in here, Bearded Disciple. Nice, Kevin. Love to have you all here, adding here, FSU boy, 92. Thank you here. But what I'm asking right now, hey, can we hit that thumbs up button? Something about algorithms. It makes everything better for us and gets us to the top so new people can find us and things like that. When I make a mistake, right, we have great chatters here to show me out and say, hey, Spread, both of them are out. That's why you're getting them mixed up, because you read that they were both out. So we appreciate that. Great question here from Daryl Snyder. Zubac. What do you think of him at 5,900, Travis?
Oh, yeah, I definitely don't mind the Zubac thing. I guess the one thing I worry about is like, it's not going to be a competitive game, right? And because it's probably not a competitive game, like, and they play OKC, who likes to go small.
Are we sure about that? OKC always keeps it close before they lose.
No, so let me rephrase. I shouldn't say it's not going to be competitive. The rephrasing should be, OKC is willing. Yes, they're going to grind and do whatever they can, but it's not one of those games where like you see Anthony Davis just like shooting over a chair and he's like, okay, we need Zubac in there. Like, we're getting killed. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be worried about that. And they're going to be more willing to play small ball lineups because the other team does not have those big lineups. Like if you had the Clippers playing against the Pelicans tonight, right? And Zion was in and Valanciunas is in, you understand you need Zubac more. You can't do those small ball lineups as much. It just won't work. But they're playing OKC where the small ball lineups can work. So Robert Covington at the 5 is a very, very viable thing to happen tonight, right? You can easily see between, I don't know, 20 and 25 minutes and get the job done there at that price. You could see Darius Bazley in there at the 5. You could see, and then they have Covington ran back. Just the way things align, I don't think they're going to need to lean on Zubac as much tonight, and I don't think you need to go to him today. I guess that's the point I'm getting at. Like, would you be surprised, Fred, if Moses Brown soaked up 10 minutes in a little revenge spot against OKC? He's out there, the energy's good, and they just say, okay, Moses, we'll give you a little bit more run because you're playing well, and, we're up by, 10, and we're just, controlling the game, and you're not killing us defensively. Like, those are just things that can easily happen throughout the game that I think we need to, consider when rostering our teams.
I mean, it wouldn't be a Tuesday show with Travis Mangone if we didn't hear about a Moses Brown revenge spot, right? I mean, did he circle this on the calendar? Is Ty Lue coming up to him tonight? Like, it's time to get your revenge.
They circle this stuff way more than you think, Spread. Like,
it's so funny that you're like, oh, I'm not worried that they're 1-8 against this team, but I think Moses Brown's really going to be up to face his former teammates.
Yeah, I mean, I also, you're the betting guy more than me, right? I mean, I also hate betting these spots where they just I don't know, they look so gross, right? Because it's but that's when it's
So how much does a typical revenge spot up your projections? I mean, did you just wake up, go to San Sam, Moses Brown revenge, pop,
no,
pop, around the horn, you're just giving them more points?
No, they don't up it that much. I think we do shows, right? Spread, I need to fill some time, so it's fun to talk about, but. There are some times where I look at it and it's if he's popping in the projection, yeah, I'm going to consider it a little bit more, right? And I don't know, let's say I'm playing a showdown slate. Let's say I'm playing Clippers and OKC showdown tonight. I need a value play. I don't know. Moses Brown is going to be unowned. He's going to be 1%. And the dude's a good fantasy per minute producer, right? It's kind of like the Boban idea yesterday. It's well, listen, if Boban gets 10 minutes, he could end up getting, I don't know, 15 to 20 DK points, and that could be enough. These are things that I'm not saying you need to do in your single entry or 3-max stuff, but in large field tournaments, yeah, you can take shots if you need salary. The problem is you don't need the salary as much on this slate. That's one of the issues because we have a lot of really good value plays. So, but the reason I also like to talk about the Moses Brown stuff sometimes, Fred, is it's not about, hey, I'm going to play Moses Brown. It's, that could hurt the Zubac play, right? Those are the reasons why I like to talk about these other pieces that could play minutes because they negatively will affect a guy like Zubac today and why I might not play him. What are the ways that it can go wrong? They could do a Moses Brown. They could do more small ball lineups because OKC is willing to play small ball. So because there's so many routes that it can go wrong for Zubac, it's kind of like rolling dice. I don't know if it's the best dice roll on this slate.
All right. Well, there you have it. I mean, the one thing I have to give you credit for, making a strong take and backing him up. So Travis isn't going to play Zubac. Maybe if he goes off, you can just jam right by him up the leaderboard. But I think you made some good reasons why we should look to other players in that price range. Anything more from this game before we move on to the marquee matchup of the night?
The chat saying they would play me at 3K. I promise you, I would.
I'm loving this.
The what's so funny? Definitely there.
When we first started, Travis, you would get so much hate in the chat. And I think in the last 2 years, you've really turned the people around. I mean, it's just not, nothing but man goats in here.
It feels good to be stroked. I don't know if they're doing it.
I got Kodiak says Mangone's going to lead me to the workbench at 3K. He's going to throw Mangone in that lineup, cash, and then, he's going to end up with all the love that he can handle.
As long as I'm not playing, if I'm playing in small ball lineups, I'll definitely get him, right? It's tough when I play next to a guy like Big T who can just grab him. I will say I did play Big T one-on-one when I was at his house, and it wasn't for money or anything like that. It was just okay, let's just have some fun, right?
Okay.
Big T was like, oh yeah, let's play. He was talking trash, and I'm like, listen, I know I'm going to lose, but man, playing against someone his size was not fun.
Was he tougher to cover than Theo Riddick?
Yeah, they're definitely tougher to cover than old Theo Riddick. It was just I'm 5'8", and I can jump a little bit for 5'8", right? I'm not saying I can dunk the ball, but dude, it was just too tall. One time I blocked it, Spread. I go up and I swat it, right? And as I swatted it, I guess I was also, I was towards late in the game, so I'm a little more tired than the start. He literally just kind of held the ball in his hand, right? It kind of like fell out and then it stayed back in because I just couldn't do anything about it and I was off balance. So I at least got the block, but I didn't get the rebound and then he put it back in. So it didn't work out, but I got the plus 3 points on FanDuel. That's pretty good.
And one thing you can say about the team members here at Run Pure Sports, Travis, is that we always give our best effort. And our guy Tyler's doing that as well. Jumping back on the stream. What happened? You just murder an Xfinity rep and now all of a sudden the internet is good to go?
Depends. Is it working?
So far, so good. You're
you
coming
look
in
clear
loud
too.
and clear.
Don't move
Yeah.
Okay. Then he's still alive.
Yeah. All right.
The moment it cuts off, get the bell money ready because I'm getting in the car.
All right. Well, fortunately, I've been tailing a lot of your player props, so I got that bell money ready for you. Tyler, of course, jumping in late, but we were talking about the Clippers and the Thunder right now. What are your thoughts here? The Clippers, laying 9.5 on the road to an OKC team that covers more than my bedspread. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to pull up Basketball Monster spread and see like the injury reports.
But we don't want to ruin things.
I'm terrified to put another tab on this computer right now because it's just going to make it go full.
I'll let you know. Marcus Morris out, Paul George out, Josh Giddey out, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out. I mean, it's like we're in March form with injuries.
Because bet the under.
It's only October.
I'd probably stay away from the side. Just bet the under in that one.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. And then do you have any tabs pulled up for props? Can we do that on our phone?
I'm looking right now, see if I can pull that up. The only guys they have listed for points right now are Lou Dort, Trey Mann, and James Robinson Earl.
Is that because of the injury news?
Yeah, you're going to have to wait for all the props in that game probably.
Okay. So you know what that means. Head on over to runpuresports.com. You'll get it on the NBA playbook. Tyler's best looks for the props on every single game. Almost done with it, Tyler. I got the projections done. Just got to knock out the game notes and only a 4-game slate. So really excited to look. There's RPB level bets have been money so far this season, and we hope we can continue to do it. And not only that, besides the NBA betting playbook, Travis has been doing 3 max content. And it's all, like he says, it always has a contrarian way of looking at the slate. And if you want to be at the top of the leaderboard, you're going to have to do that. You can't just eat good chalk all day and expect to get that first place all alone. So appreciate what you're doing over there, Travis. And of course, you, Tyler, with the winning prop picks. Anything more on this game before we go to the last one of the night?
I got nothing.
All right, let's go to, this is going to be fun. The Golden State Warriors are +2 in Phoenix taking on the Suns. 227 is the total, plus 105 on the money line for the Warriors if you want to move that way. Tyler, this was the game that we thought was going to be the Western Conference Finals last year, right? Before the Mavericks just came and, so these are two of the best teams in the NBA. The Clippers had the Suns had the best record in the NBA last year. Of course, disappointed by their playoff finish. We were worried about DeAndre Ayton because he was basically like giving quotes like he didn't care at the training camp, but he's looked engaged on the floor. Him and Booker have great chemistry. The big loss for this team is Jay Crowder. That hurts the bench a bit going against a Warriors team who I do like the bench. One interesting thing for the Warriors, they actually gave Moody a little more rung than Kuminga in that last game against the Nuggets. Let's see if he becomes ready, because we thought that Moody was going to be the more NBA ready player when he was drafted. And that wasn't the case last year. If he can become a good player off the bench, that's going to help this Warriors team so much. So Tyler, I ran the projections this morning and it hurt my heart. I know why? Because it told me to take Phoenix. Do you agree with my numbers, or should I go back to my favorite team, the team that just keeps cashing for me, the Golden State Warriors? What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm going to side with the Warriors here at the plus money. Phoenix is the regular season bully, but I just don't trust them this year. They look good in a couple games, but I'm just still not on them yet. I got to see them just get back to where they were the last couple years. Booker at 26.5 on his points. I don't mind hitting the over there, but I just think Golden State's the deeper team here, and they're just going to be able to run that second unit, and they'll win those minutes there. Probably a really close game, but I think they etch it out in the end. Curry has a big game. He lights up that backcourt. Could see him going for 30+ in the spot.
All right, Travis, give me your thoughts on the side, because this is a fun game as a fan, right? Even if we didn't bet, this would be the one that we wanted to see tonight. It's by far, to me, the most interesting game on the slate. My love for the Warriors has not, it's pretty well known around these Run Pure parts. What do you think? Do I go against my projections tonight and take my guys and just play it with my heart, or am I making a drastic mistake?
Yeah, spread from 96.5 the ticket, over there in Golden State, rooting on the Golden State Warriors. It's definitely gonna be a fun game to watch tonight. DFS wise, it's a little tough. I mean, you talk about teams that are deep spread. I mean, you're the Warriors guy. I mean, come on, like everyone loves it. Every guy that loves to talk about the Warriors loves to talk about how deep this team is. Spread
strength in numbers. Let's go.
Deepest team in the league.
Strength in numbers, but their record is absolutely terrible with Steph Curry out of the lineup. But let's just act like it's because we have 10 guys, right? I mean, I love the propaganda that these guys put out here on the Golden State side.
It is exactly what they love to talk about, right? We're so deep. Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman when he comes back.
But our record's like 0.375 winning percentage with Curry out of the lineup. But it's all about these numbers.
But I think Jordan Poole's interesting at 6'2". I don't mind his price tag. So I think he's kind of in play. Wiggins at 7'1". He's been playing great basketball. He might have to deal with – I don't think he'll deal with Bridges, right? Bridges will probably slide over to Curry a little bit. It's tough. Obviously, you can make switches and stuff, but Wiggins has played great basketball, so I don't want to sleep on that. And those minutes have been down on some of those guys, like Klay Thompson's minutes, 20, 24, 27. I don't expect him to keep trending up a ton. Draymond, 25, 27, 28. I just don't see him getting into the 30s where some of these other guys like Curry, Wiggins, they're just stronger plays naturally because of that. Even Jordan Poole, I think he's a pretty good option. We saw him go 28, 27, 27 minutes, but he certainly, if he gets hot, they're going to keep him in there and have him play a little bit more. So I do think he's going to be certainly in play as well. Let's go to the Phoenix side where I think there's just way more intriguing price tags. Devin Booker could just naturally have no ownership tonight and be like 5%. And at $9K, he could break any slate. So you wouldn't want to completely ignore that, at least in tournaments. There are better spend up options though, but it's just worth calling out. Cam Johnson might pop a little bit. I'm not dying to play him, but I think he's in the conversation on this slate. I think there's just better values that I'd rather go to. Same with Bridges. Ayton at 6'7". I think he's intriguing. Depends how I handle the center position. And then Chris Paul. I mean, he's up there in potential assists. He's been playing well. 7K for Chris Paul feels too cheap. The problem is, what if we play Luka? What if we play CJ McCollum? Well, I only have a utility spot left for him because I can't plug any of those guys in the shooting guard spot. So that could keep his ownership down. It's definitely something to watch and monitor, though, for sure. And then spread, I got to close it out strong. Who doesn't like a good Damian Lee revenge game?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm not playing him, but hey, do what you want with that information. I'm not playing him. Maybe on the showdown slate.
I got to redo my whole handicap. I didn't factor in the Damian Lee revenge. Oh, man.
I mean, you saw Steph the other day gassing him up, right? He's like, Damian Lee, look at him hitting the game winner. He was all hyped for him. So who knows? Maybe Damian Lee will be hyped to be back in Golden State.
Hey, yeah, I mean, fantastic. That's so on brand. I love it. Tyler, you had mentioned some props earlier. Who do you think? So, I've been building these lineups while I talk to Travis. It gives me a good start, and gets me that entry in early, and then I can adjust later when I'm listening, of course, to the Hardwood Live and the Up to Lock show on runpuresports.com. But hey, me and you, we know the top, right? Who do you think would be better spend up tonight, Luka or Steph, Tyler?
Luka. I mean, Luka's going to have it all to himself tonight. He's playing a team that's got a backcourt that's missing their best defender. No Herb Jones to chase him around. The only other really good defender is Alvarado, who's like half the size of Luka. He'll just put him in the post and bully him. So I could see Luka triple-double in tonight.
Travis, do you agree with that? Are you spending up for Luka and not Steph tonight?
Yeah, but like ownership always matters with that, right? Like if Luka's 60%.
Can I add a third guy to that? Because I think the Booker call might be the one.
Yeah, the Booker thing is, here's the other key. Here's the key, Tyler. He's shooting guard eligible. Like that's, I think, the key there. Like, because you can't play Luka, you can't play Luka, McCollum, and then like, what can you do with Trey Mann? He's shooting guard eligible. Okay, that muddies things up a bit because sometimes you get spots where like you look at the position and you're like, the flexibility is not there to get that guy in there. So like, here's another thing you can do sometimes that I think is super interesting. Like Devin Vassell is a great example. Everyone yesterday wants to play Devin Vassell. He's 68% owned. But what if I play Devin Vassell in the shooting guard spot and not the small forward spot? Everyone wants to put him in small forward. But if you put him in shooting guard, that is forcing you to play more forwards possibly on this slate. Like, and then if you make your utility a forward also, you're playing 5 forwards technically, while everyone else is playing maybe 3 forwards or maybe 4 forwards. Like these are small, slight things where then you can kind of eat some good chalk and like you just get completely different constructions. Trey Mann is probably going to be in your shooting guard spot most of the time today. You're likely going to see all those point guards jammed in there. What if you put Trey Mann at the point guard spot and said, let me embrace another shooting guard? Well, who's the shooting guard you're playing now? Like everyone's going to want to put him in there. Maybe then they have to embrace Spencer Dinwiddie instead at 5.4K. Maybe they have to embrace your boy Luke Kennard, spread. Probably not. Maybe it ends up being a Devin Booker up top or a Jaden Ivey at 6'8" or a Jordan Poole. Like those are slight things that are super uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but these are things I look for when I build out my lineups. I'm like, hey, look at this team that I'm playing. Trey Mann's in the point guard spot. That team's kind of unique already because of that. What else makes this team unique? In a slight way that's really sharp. Maybe it then pays up for Devin Booker, and then it plays all these other really good plays around it. That sounds like a great team. Let me just play that and move on from there.
Which cheapies did you like in the Pelicans game? I didn't catch that part earlier in the show. Did you talk about any of them guys? Because I think that Najee Marshall at 3,200 is going to see a ton of minutes tonight.
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit. I said like the gap between Murphy and Marshall, it's 4.8 and 3.2. And like, could you see Murphy play? Like, I think Murphy's projection will be between like 26 and 30 minutes because he'll probably be the starter. And then you'll have Najee Marshall maybe be like the guy that's projected for like 20 to 24. And then like that could flip if Trey Murphy gets in foul trouble, or like even at 3.2 and 4.8, Murphy could get 18 DK points and Marshall could get like 24, right? Like that could easily be something that happens where the ownership could be worth it. I do think Larry Nance at 5K is going to be a very, very strong play. He's a great fantasy per minute producer. So we talked about him a little bit. And then I did call out, I guess could you see Garrett Temple hasn't played. Okay. So he won't just randomly start, I don't think. I think you're going to see it's either going to be Graham or Alvarado as that shooting guard option. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Graham, but then Alvarado runs that second unit. And then when Devontae Graham is missing all his 3-pointers from the corner and up at the wing, you can see Alvarado kind of playing better. And then like, maybe they just say, okay, Alvarado, you're going to close the game out because you're absolutely crushing it. Your energy is good. And like, we want to keep you in there because your dual ball handling duties to close the game out of Alvarado paired up with CJ McCollum could be a better pairing to close a game out because you don't know which one's getting the ball, and then they're able to dish the rock when they drive to the hoop.
I like that call.
All right, there you have it. Wrapping up here, but Tyler, you missed the beginning. Just quick answers here. Wizards -5.5 hosting Detroit. Who do you like?
Give me Washington there. I don't trust Detroit. I was big on them at the beginning of the year, but I think Washington gets them here.
We agree there. And
we said it at the beginning of the year too. It's like Washington, we don't trust their guys. They're made of glass. Like halfway through the year, they'll be missing a few of them. At full strength, they're going to win games, and this is a game they definitely win.
Yeah, so I agree there. Projections agree there. Probably my favorite spot on the board tonight. Mavericks are -6 with all those Pelicans injuries. Are we walking into a trap taking the favorite there, Tyler?
I don't think so. I think this looks like Dallas and Memphis's game last week. They blew them out by like 40. Might not be 40, but I think they win this easily. All
right. Well, why don't you go ahead and cook up one of those home run parlays for us now, and we'll move to the best bets first. Travis off here running around. This guy is a multi.
He's doing like 19 things right now.
But hey, when you cash as much as Travis, you need to multitask. I mean, you have to just be awesome at multiple things.
Yeah, I noticed my phone needed to be charged, and I'm trying to head to the gym after this, and you can't be at the gym with a phone that needs.
I can tell you, we definitely wouldn't mind to fire it up Joey work on the NBA rundown.
All right, I'm gonna reach out to Joey, and we're gonna make that happen. Travis, what do you listen to while you're working out? Like, what's the music that you need to hear to give you those extra 2 reps?
I do. I guess it's so. I'm 31, right? So age matters. To know what I like to listen to. I like the Blink-182, like those kind of bands, like that genre is kind of my thing. Oh, okay. Little Machine Gun Kelly's cool too. I like him. Like kind of like that, like more like bandish vibe is for me. So yeah, I like to listen to that. It's probably some nostalgia too, right? Because I don't know, growing up, that's what I listened to a lot of. So. That's what I do, and I got that 4:45 NBA show, so I want to be sure to get there, eat something, and then get the content up and be ready to rock. Because I like this slate a little bit; it should be a fun one. Yeah. You need my best bet?
Yeah, we'll start with you. Best bet Tyler, after all the problems were there, you're like the clearest guy on the screen.
I know,
That
right?
internet, I mean, you have bipolar internet.
I'm guessing the Xfinity guys were like, yeah, we don't need to lose a tech.
They're in there
to
watching. Yeah, and they're just like, we got to take care of this. All right, Travis, we will start with you, though. What is your best bet for tonight, side, total, or prop?
Yeah, I'm hopefully, I mean, again, it's a 4-game slate, so if we happen to like align on something, wouldn't shock me, but I'm on that over for the Pistons and Wizards game. I absolutely love that game. It's going to shoot out a bit. I wouldn't be shocked with the winning lineup. You look it up and it's like, there's one guy on there. Like, one thing I think you could do with your lineups today is like, let's say you play 50 DK lineups today. I don't know, maybe take like 10 of your lineups and be like, always include one from that game, right? Just one. You could even include more if you'd like, but I just think like some of these guys could randomly pop in and be the winner. Could be a Jaden Ivey, could be a Cade Cunningham, could be a Kyle Kuzma. I mean, again, we talked about it. He'll shoot over Jesus. He'll shoot over, Sadiq Bey or Isaiah Stewart if they're covering him. So, and Isaiah Stewart could be a guy too at that power forward center position at 5'3" that could easily get 30 DK points and be a guy that you want in your lineup. So, there's pieces in that game, and I think if this game goes over, I shouldn't ignore it completely in DFS. I'm going to look at it, but I'm not going to load the boat on it.
All right. What are your thoughts, Tyler? Best bet for tonight?
Travis took an over. I'm going to take an under. Give me the under in that OKC Clippers game. I don't see much offense coming in that game. Clippers are going to play a ton of defense. See that staying in the 90s there. So give me the under there.
All right. Well, thanks for leaving my favorite bet. The Washington Wizards -5.5 against the Pistons. Pistons, great team, a lot of young talent, fun to watch, but they can't defend. And I think that's going to be too much against this Washington Wizards veteran team. So there you have it. Tyler, did you have time to swing for the fences? Did you load up a home run parlay?
I did. We're going to go Christian Wood to make 3 threes and Dallas wins. Jordan Poole to make 3 threes and Golden State wins. And Kuzma to make 3 threes and Washington wins. That gets you 73-1.
Oh, I love it.
What is Damian Lee to get 3 threes and his Suns win, and Moses Brown to get 10 points and a Thunder?
If you can find those two guys listed on props, I'd be impressed at that.
Yeah, 10-1 to even find those props listed. So there you have it, Tyler. We thank you for enduring, making multiple efforts. Glad to see you here, guys. One more time, I'm just going to ask, please give us the thumbs up. I'm sure you're subscribed, but if you're not, alleviate that mistake. Head on over to runpuresports.com. That is the NBA rundown for today. We will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern again, because you and I, Travis, will be doing picking winners with our good friend Holden at 2 p.m. Eastern. So there's the schedule. It's constantly changing, but if you're subscribed, you get notified, right? Because things are happening here. You see Travis multitasking. I'm multitasking. Tyler's out here searching for the best in fiber
fighting for my damn life to get the internet to work.
Yeah, he's fighting with support daily.
Yeah. So the subscription goes hand in hand with the winnings. So there you have it. That's my spiel. Travis, why don't you give us some words of wisdom and we'll get out of here.
I guess check out my content. Check out the 4:45 show. That'll be in 2 hours and 30 minutes. So got to crank in that workout. Got to get the content moving for you guys, and excited to go on that show and talk about this slate. I think it's a really fun one. I'm excited to look at it deeper when we kind of get closer to lock.
All right, there you have it. NBA rundown is for today. We are done. Make sure you run pure.